Hello, YouTube. So I am going to be doing a walkthrough of this deck, the Light and Shadow Tarot by Michael Gopford and Brian Williams. This is the box it came in. So the reason I'm doing a little walkthrough of this deck is I actually just sold it to a lovely, incredibly talented artist here in Toronto. I think he wants to make his own deck, which is so exciting. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it is. So I think that's great. And I love this deck as a kind of collector's item for artists who are interested in tarot. Obviously, I sold this deck and I do have a bunch of other ones for sale, which I probably should just do a YouTube live about that and an Instagram live about that later. So I'm not going to get into it. But I will be saying kind of why I've chosen to rehome this deck and why it is, even though it's absolutely gorgeous, why it is one that, for whatever reason, like it just never really resonated with me as one to work with on a daily basis in my readings. So okay, you guys, still kind of getting used to YouTube as Instagram person. So all right, I'll show you guys. So it comes in this box. It is out of print, I believe. So if this is one that you guys are interested in snagging, you're not going to be able to get it from me because, again, I just sold this one, but I want to show you guys. So it is by Destiny Books. It says on the back, the Light and Shadow Tarot is inspired by many spiritual traditions, including Celtic, Native American, East Indian, African, and medieval European. The black and white images stress contrast and balance, resolution and completion, while retaining strong and workable ties to the traditional tarot. A brilliant artist who believes that all the great themes of life reside in the tarot, Michael Gopford has created cards alive with energy and humor, grace, and strain. This innovative deck brings to light the shadow side in all of us, an essential part of the creative process. It leads to growth, movement, and change. Permeated with images of strong women, this deck also provides a welcome balance between the female and male principles. The accompanying text includes a detailed interpretation of each card and serves as an excellent introduction to the tarot. The Light and Shadow Tarot will delight both beginners and experts looking for a deck that honors the beauty and mystery of this ancient tradition in its fresh and original way. So all of those characterizations of the artwork, I would say, is pretty true. I have been through this deck just now to kind of reorder everything, and the artwork really is beautiful. To me, it looks like either woodcut or lino cut. It's kind of hard to tell from the way this is printed. It really could be either. I'm not seeing any of the wood grain in the imagery, the way it's printed. The blacks are like a pure black. So I really am not too sure if this is woodcut or lino cut. Lino cut, for those of you guys who don't know, it's basically, it imitates woodcut in that it's engraved, but there's no wood grain that kind of can get snagged or get in the way. Personally, whenever I'm doing this type of engraving method of printmaking, because I am trained in printmaking, I prefer working with wood just because I love working with something from the earth, something that is a bit tactile, and I personally love seeing that wood grain and the characteristics and personality of the wood come through in the print. That is just my opinion. So I'm not too sure, again, if this is woodcut or lino. It does say block prints, so it's kind of hard to say. Maybe the book is going to tell us. And this is a really cute little book. It looks pretty hefty, which I do like when an original artwork kind of deck, like when someone who is interpreting the tarot in their own way, when there is a little booklet that is actually going to explain something, and when it's not just like, I don't know, a flimsy little thing that's only like this big. Personally, I don't love it when it's so little. So this actually does look like a pretty decent little booklet. And just to give you guys an idea of what it looks like, this is the spreads for each of the descriptions, and I will end up reading a few of these to you guys as we go along. If you've got any requests, please just do let me know. And I'm going to be doing this in the order of Major Arcana, and then we'll go through each of the different suits. So I just wanted to look at, to see if they're telling us about the materials that the artist has used, because I am curious if this is woodblock or if it is lino. But I don't really see. Let's see. It just says block print, but that could be wood or it could be lino. So let's see. He begins the design directly on the block without preliminary sketches on paper. The drawing grows and changes. Lines are created, suppressed, and changed as in a medieval palimpsest. The ghosts of earlier discarded lines endure in the design until the critical moment of carving. Even then, the direction of the work can change as one cut prompts changes in the next. I totally relate to that as someone who has done block printing. It says the completed block is ready for the richly tactile step of printing. Viscous black ink is rolled into it and dampened paper is pressed against it. Still, it doesn't say if he is carving into wood or if he is carving into lino, which is like a kind of plasticky material. It really doesn't say, unfortunately. Oh, thank you. Someone is saying I look 21. You know what, my friend? We're talking about the tarot. We're not talking about anything else. So I'm going to ignore you in the chat. Sorry, not sorry. If anyone has any tarot related things in the chat, then we can get into it. I'm actually 35, so I appreciate someone thinking I look 21. I guess my skincare and veganism is working. But anyway, back to this deck. So I do think this is a stunning deck. I think the artwork is fantastic. The reason I decided to sell it was because I don't read with it, because I find the cards a little bit big and unwieldy. So I find these just too big for my hands. As you guys can see, like this is not a very comfortable way to be holding a deck that you're actually going to be working with. So I think these are great as a collector's item, as artwork to kind of appreciate and look at. But if you're going to, let's say, like try to shuffle it, like it's something that I've personally found to be a little bit impossible and like unwieldy just because of the shape of my hands. So I think the individual who purchased this is a man, and so men are going to have bigger hands. So if you are someone who does want to be working with this deck as a deck that you're actually shuffling and working with to read with, whether for yourself or other people, that is definitely something to consider, just like the size of your hand. And do you care how the deck feels in your hands? Personally, I do. And you'll also notice that it's quite a thin cardstock. And so for me, a thin cardstock, like it just isn't going to work for me for a deck that I am going to be using to read and do divination with. Like it's, again, a better suited type of cardstock, in my opinion, for a kind of collector item when I'm just having to declutter like all of the items that I've got as collector's items. Like I want to only have the decks that I personally am reading with on a regular basis. So just something to keep in mind. It is really thin. You guys can see incredibly like thin, kind of like flimsy. Like I'm a little bit worried to be bending it, so that is something to keep in mind. This is, again, I would say a deck that is really, really great for someone who is collecting tarot decks, someone who is interested in engraving, block printing, any kind of relief printmaking, anything like that. I think it would be a little bit challenging to read with, just because of the physicality, that the cards are kind of thin and also kind of big. I think they've chosen to do that just to keep the integrity of the imagery, as these are really beautiful engravings. Personally, I would have loved to have seen this deck be printed this size, like something smaller. But again, that's just because I have small hands and I want to be able to shuffle a deck, work with it, and not worry if I'm going to bend the edges, not worry if I'm going to bend the card in half by accident. And with even, you can see this is a little bit thicker. I don't know if you guys can really see it on the video, but like, just trust me, this is a little bit thicker. I would say this is much thinner on average than the typical tarot deck. And so that's just something to keep in mind if you are someone who wants to be working with this deck to read, to shuffle, to all of this type of thing. So anyway, I'm going to start with the major arcana. So we'll start with the Fool. as we're going to be doing a walkthrough of all the cards today, just so everyone can kind of see what do all these cards look like? How has this artist interpreted the vibe and the imagery of each card's symbolism, each card's story, etc. And you can decide if this is a deck that you want to get for yourself. So starting off, this is the Fool. And I'll try to give you guys enough time to really see each card. And yeah, this is the back. So I've got a bit of a reference of the four suits here. Next up, we've got the Magician. I really love this version of the High Priestess. Pretty cool. The Empress. And if anyone does have a request on which cards you want me to read from the book, just so we can get an idea of what the vibe the guidebook is, feel free. It's the Emperor. Hierophant. Elephants in the background. It's kind of interesting. Lovers. The Chariot. And this deck has 8 as Justice. Personally, like I get why, but personally I always associate Justice with 11, and I associate Strength with 8. That numerological association is much more common with the Thoth styles of decks, which is not really my thing. Number 9 is the Hermit, and you'll see this is the image on the box for the deck, as well as the cover of the book. Of course, we all kind of have to be a little bit of a hermit when we're reading tarot. And just to remind you guys, I'll show you guys the cover of the book. That's the Hermit. So next up, we got card number 10, the Wheel of Fortune. And personally, I do think the typography does suit the artwork, which I don't always agree with when it comes to decks that don't have handwritten typography. One of the reasons I really love my my old school Rider-Waite-Smith is that the typography is handwritten. So this has Strength as card 11, which always kind of makes me bristle. Like for me, Strength is always card 8, not card 11. But what can you do? Maybe that's why this deck never fully resonated with me, even though I absolutely adore the art. So next up, we've got the Hanged Man. And then the Death card, card 13. But in this deck, they're calling it the Endless Dance of Death instead of just Death. Next up, Temperance. And then the Devil. I think this is a really great Devil card. And I really love kind of the rest of these, actually. The Tower. The Star. The Moon. I love this so much. Such a cool version of the moon. The Sun. Judgment. The world. This is an interesting interpretation of the world. So I'm going to read from the book just so we get an idea of the style of the guidebook. I'm going to, I think, read the moon because that's like my favorite card. My necklace is the moon and my arm sleeve is the moon. Let's take a sip of water. Okay. So let's see what they say about the moon. I'll show you guys what it looks like here. And so it says the moon, card 18, and then it has a little poem. I am moon goddess, waxing and waning, light in the darkness. My changes pull at the soul. And it seems like each of these has a really lovely little image to kind of start us off. Here we've got a little crayfish guy at the bottom, which we see right here. I don't know if you guys can see right there. So it says, a smiling crescent moon. Maybe I'll show you guys the card at the same time. All right, see if I can do both at once so you guys can see the moon. So it says, a smiling crescent moon shines above an empty bed on the moon card. The towers on either side protect the bed, the home of sleep, as the priestess's columns guard her. They also recall the proud building of the tower card, raised against the sky by human pride. The towers look out toward approaching dangers, toward the future. On either side of the bed stand a wild wolf and a domesticated dog. Humanity encompasses both. We are both tame and wild. We too are domesticated, but still at heart as wild as wolves. A path winds through the center of the scene, even over the bed itself. This is the path of unconscious and dream. The moon, an embodiment of the eternal feminine, reigns over the period of sleep and dream. The bed stands both in water and on land. Its legs rest on little islands from which water ripples and rings. Water, as we have seen, as the vital power of possibilities and represents the depths of the subconscious. Oops. Didn't realize that was in front of my face. Sorry, guys. The moon. Well, this YouTube thing always kind of messes me up because it's like I'm not used to it like actually mirroring so you guys can see. It's like weird to me. Okay. From the mystery of the waters arises a lobster, aquatic creature of nightmares. Dreaming opens the deepest, most hidden parts of ourselves. We live through much and relive the joys and troubles of waking life. There is the nourishing, regenerating aspect of dream, always the potential for the night terrors. And then there's a section for meaning. So it says, the moon presides over the kingdom of peaceful sleep and restless nightmares. From the fount of the watery star flow dreams, illusions, chimeras, visions. She is mistress of fertility, creativity in the subconscious, as well as the instigator of lunacy and nocturnal fears. As the night fills half of time and the dark sustains half the weight of the universe, so the moon takes its place as a guardian of half of the world's soul. Nightmares, as disturbing as they can be, still serve us well. The soul grapples with its fears and anxious, troubled images of troubled sleep, and it draws strength from the struggle. This is an example of how this booklet is interpreting. So if anyone does want to pick this up, again, you won't be able to do it from me because I just sold this one, but the booklet actually seems like it's quite good. So I'll be reading, I think, one from each of the suits so you guys can get an idea. So, all right, next up, we're going to do, I think, swords. Let's do swords first, and we'll do wands and cups, then pentacles. All right. Ace of Swords. Pretty cool. I actually really love this imagery. Two of Swords. I love the Three of Swords. I'm going to keep this out because this is what I'm going to read from the book, I think. Three of Swords. Really nice. Four of Swords. Five of Swords. Six of Swords. Seven of Swords. Eight of Swords. It's one of my favorite cards. Pretty tough card, but an important one. Sometimes the tarot calls us out. And sometimes we need to be called out. Nine of Swords. Ten of Swords. Difficult one. And then the way that this deck does the court cards, it goes Prince, Princess, Queen, King. I'm not too sure which they want to be which. If they want the princes to be the knights, or if they want the, I don't really know. If they want the princesses to be the pages. I'm sure I'll find out in the little booklet and let you guys know. So Princess of Swords. Prince of Swords. Queen of Swords. King of Swords. Interesting. All right, so I'm going to read the Three of Swords from the booklet just to give us an idea of how this creative team is doing this. And so, okay, let's see. So the minor arcana, the part in the booklet, it starts with Queen of Wands, then it goes Queen of Cups, Queen of Swords. So, okay, it looks like they've kind of inverted it. So it's like the queens, they're treating it as the kings, I think. And it looks like, I don't know. Or maybe they're trying to do just some kind of non-hierarchical thing. It's kind of hard to say, but they are doing it in the order of Queen, King, then Princess, then Prince, which is a bit odd to me. Because reading the interpretation, it says Prince of Swords, meaning the Prince of Swords imparts gifts of movement and change. Like the eagle, the prince concentrates on his goal and flies toward it straight as a shot arrow, which to me would be a very like Knight of Swords vibe. So your mileage may vary. I know that whenever decks kind of switch up the court cards, some people tend to like that and some people do not like that. So just do keep that in mind. That this is not quite traditional. Like it's close. It's close. Let's see. And looking at the description of the Princess of Swords, I'm not going to read the description, but to me, this does, actually I will read it just kind of for fun so you guys can see what I mean. So to me, this description does not align with the Page of Swords at all. So to me, this deck, it seems to be doing something completely like non-traditional with the court cards, which again is totally fine. Like I think that is the beauty of being a deck creator, is like you can kind of do what you want and like play with the assumed hierarchies, let's say, within the way that the court cards are organized in most tarot decks. So I think that that's what this creative team is doing. So do keep that in mind if you are someone who prefers a more traditional setup when it comes to the court cards. At the same time, if you are someone who likes that hierarchy kind of like turned on its head or inverted or just like changed up in some way, like you probably will like this. So again, this is not how I would interpret, let's say, the Page of Swords, but it says, the Princess of Swords may seem a wild young woman, a savage dancer, an extravagant soul, worshipping at the sacred altar of a mysterious creed. Yet she is also the devotee of the goddess of wisdom, as is seen by the presence of Athena's owl. So her whirling movement is not just a dance of airy smoke, but also a solemn rite. So for me, that has like nothing to do with the typical pages. So just something to keep in mind, like if you are someone who is interested in picking up this deck and you do want a deck that has kind of more traditional meanings when it comes to court cards, I think you might be disappointed. But if you are someone who loves like just a different way of relating to these energies, like this might be a really solid choice. So moving on, I just wanted to read what the book says about the Three of Swords, just so you guys can get an idea of what these two creators of this deck, what their perspective is on this very classic card. So you see three of swords, and I love the little like teardrops here, like as an emblem of this card. I think the layout here is really stunning. I love a really nicely designed layout. Total sucker for that. So each of the descriptions here in this little booklet starts with kind of like a little poem, and then we have an image of the card itself, and then a little description, and then a meaning. So it says, a heart pierced with pain disrupts its natural course, and blood tears fall like rain from angry clouds of sorrow. Pretty good. So it says, three swords pierce a large heart from above. Dark storm clouds surround the swords, and sheets of rain pour down from them and mix with larger drops of blood that fall from the wounded heart. Both rain and blood are like tears of sadness. Grief and gloom reinforce each other, showing the danger of self-inflicted compounded melancholy. The card's signs are dusky Saturn and Libra, meaning sadness, emotional pain, wounded emotions, a fullness of sorrow, cleansing tears that like rain will leave freshness and the possibility for a new start. So pretty sparse in terms of meaning. I don't disagree with any of that. There is a lot that I would add to it, of course, but again, it's a teeny little booklet, so what can you do? If you are familiar with the tarot already, like you're probably not going to need to rely on the booklet with this deck, like so it's not really the end of the world that it doesn't go into a whole ton of information. I do think the imagery is strong enough that that doesn't really like matter per se. All right, so next suit we've got the Wands, of course. So let's go. Ace of Wands. Two of Wands. That's interesting. I think holding a rose and a lily. I don't know if that's a calla lily. I'm really bad at lilies. Lilies are poisonous to cats. So I'm just like out of sight, out of mind. Beautiful though. Cool interpretation. Next up, Three of Wands. Next up, we've got the Four of Wands. Really cool version of this card. Next up, Five of Wands. As we all know, Five of Wands, conflict. Six of Wands, the Victory card. Seven of Wands. I call this the whack-a-mole card. Eight of Wands. Very different vibe than the typical Eight of Wands, actually. So I'm going to leave this out. I think this is going to be the one that I read from this suit because it does not look anything like a typical Eight of Wands. So I'm curious what the artist's intention was with that. Nine of Wands. 10 of Wands. And this is pretty traditional, but actually literally showing that weight on the person's back, I think is a really interesting choice. I think it's a well-designed deck, to be honest. And then we've got Prince of Wands, Lion, Princess of Wands, little cat. Association with felines here continues. Queen of Wands with leopard. Beautiful. I actually really love this card. And then the King of Wands, and I don't know what's going on here in terms of the animals. Looks like a horse is being ridden, and I don't know what's going on here. Maybe I'll look in the book and we'll find out. So, okay, looking to the book, let's see what the artists have to say about the Eight of Wands. Because usually the Eight of Wands is like, in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, it's like 8 wands all going in the same direction. It's like they're all parallel, they're all kind of at a angle, a diagonal. And it tends to represent like movement, forward movement towards a vibe. So, okay, I'll show you guys this as I'm reading it. Eight of Wands. So it says, in this electric combine, words directed with great speed flash just as the splendor of a rainbow barely lasts. Oh, I was supposed to be a rainbow. I definitely would not have guessed that. Okay. This is why I love, like, actually reading an artist's description. I just dropped everything. An artist's description of what they've created, because sometimes it's obvious what they mean and sometimes it is not obvious what they mean. So, all right, 8 wands. Let's see. 8 wands rise from rippling waters, crossing and recrossing each other. So I guess that's what that is supposed to be. They point skyward, each capped with leaves and buds, penetrating and fusing with a vast rainbow. The chaotic growth of nature weaves itself into a pattern of order. High in the center of this fabric, the crossing wands create a diamond shape. This shape recalls the diamond or crystal carried by the Fool. It focuses and directs the unruly fertility of the saplings. The crystal transforms energy into the refracted beauty of the rainbow. Astrologically, this card is guarded by peripatetic Mercury and thrusting Sagittarius. All right. I do like this card as a Sagittarius sun, personally. So, okay, then it says meaning, activity, energy, growth, the upward and outward movement of all life, the expansive, extroverted impulses of all growing things, the interweaving of individual forces that become a fabric of vital strength. So I actually think that's kind of cool. It's not a traditional interpretation in terms of the visuals. Like, I get what they're going for. Personally, to me, it doesn't quite come across in the imagery, but you know what? That's totally cool. It's a big, beautiful world out there, and I totally love when people have their own interpretations of things. So I just wanted to see, because it seems like the King of Wands is a bit weird because it's the only court card in this suit with no like feline going on, which is a bit strange. So let's see. It doesn't really make any reference to that. So to me, that is like a little bit strange that all of the other court cards for the wands has some kind of like feline element, and that's the only one that doesn't. I'm sure the artists have a reason for that, but I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to patterns in decks, and so that is just also something to note. Okay, so next up we've got the Cups suit. So let's go for it. Ace of Cups. Two of Cups. It's really beautiful. Three of Cups. Four of Cups. I actually really love that little crab. Five of Cups. This is pretty traditional in terms of the imagery. I like the butterfly there. Kind of symbolize the possibility for, I'm assuming, like transformation and growth after heartache. Next up, we have got Six of Cups. Seven of Cups. Eight of Cups is one of my favorites. It's all about transitions, moving on, leaving a situation. 9 of Cups. 10 of Cups. Prince of Cups. Princess of Cups. Really interesting how the artist has dealt with the ripples in the water and chosen to show like what is going on beneath the surface of the water. Queen of Cups. And King of Cups. It's interesting that this deck does seem to show the kings as being on horses, which is usually we see the knights on horses. But of course, this deck does not have any knights. So it's always interesting to see how different creative teams are interpreting the vibes differently, which is always interesting to see. So we got Pentacles suit, Ace of Pentacles. I noticed a few folks just log on. Hello and welcome. We're just finishing up, getting through this deck. If you guys have any recommendations on what cards you want me to read from the book, or if you want me to show again a card that you missed, speak now in the chat or forever hold your peace. 2 of Pentacles. And it's interesting that they've chosen to do a lot of the 2s as this kind of like a balance of, let's say, the dark and light imagery here. 3 of Pentacles. I love this 3 of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles. 5 of Pentacles. 6 of Pentacles. I'm actually going to choose this one to read from the book. 7 of Pentacles. The ball cap here is like kind of funny. 8 of Pentacles. 9 of Pentacles. Always a good card. This card traditionally has someone with a falcon kind of like on their arm. So it's kind of cool they've chosen to keep that imagery, but just in a very like exalted way. That's kind of fun. 10 of Pentacles. I actually love this with the little cats at the bottom. So cute. I really like that, actually. Prince of Pentacles. The Bison. Princess of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles. A giant ram or something, it looks like. And the King of Pentacles. So interesting. So this deck has put, I think, all of the kings on horses, which is very non-traditional because, again, knights do tend to be the ones on horses. And so if you're looking to match up the traditional interpretations of each of these court cards, you might have a hard time, or you might have to refer to the book or keep your own, just refer to your own intuition, your own vibe on what the difference between all these court cards is. Again, it is just not typical. It's not a bad thing. It's just an artistic creative license that this creative team has chosen to do, which I think is totally okay. So I am going to read the 6 of Pentacles from the book just to give you guys, again, this idea of how the book that little booklet that comes with this deck, how they're interpreting the cards, what you can expect if you do decide to pick this book up. Again, I do kind of like this book. I think it's great. I think it I don't know, it's got a good vibe to it. It has enough information. It's kind of poetic. It's not too vague, which I think is great because some of these little booklets can be just like so vague that they're basically useless. So this is not in that category, which I think is great. And if you guys are enjoying this, feel free to request a card. While we're here, we're just finishing up. And if you hit the like button, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I've got another deck that I am going to be doing a walkthrough on really shortly. Obviously not on this stream, but another one. So this is the walkthrough I'm doing next because I also sold this deck. But anyway, back to Pentacles. So 6 of Pentacles. Let's see what the little booklet says. So it says, the reflection of inward accomplishments increases abundant matter, outwardly appreciated. 6 Pentacles create a schema rather like the tree of life of the Kabbalah. 6 discs irradiate around a white cross connected to each other by a web of lines. These elements show that everything in the universe moves and changes constantly, recreating order in kaleidoscopic patterns. Each component interacts with all others as pentacles reach out to each other in radiating lines of light. Square forms contrast with round ones, light jostles dark, parallel lines connect with intersecting ones. From the center of the cross, a human figure gazes out, arms spread wide in a gesture of openness and welcoming. An elaborate headdress includes an upward pointing arrow on which balances a set of scales. The arrow signals confidence and hope. The scales demonstrate the importance of balancing contrasting forces. Surmounting this is a small human figure that reaches up in a gesture of optimism and support to uphold part of the lattice that grows from the pentagrams inscribed on each disc. The interaction of all parts of the dance of their arrangement and rearrangement reveal the dynamic nature of existence and the nourishing aspect of contact and connection. Moon and Taurus, feminine emblems of fruitfulness, support the 6 of Pentacles. So to me, this is not how I would typically think of the 6 of Pentacles, like at all. But I do respect that that is how some people see it. It's not my personal perspective. If I was to write a description of the 6 of Pentacles, it wouldn't quite be this. So for the meaning, it says attainment, fulfillment, accomplishment, the dynamic design of life, the interaction and interplay of elements, the fruitfulness of the chain of being, like the vitality inherent in the building blocks of the DNA molecule. So if I'm going to make an educated guess, I would assume that that is much more in alignment with the Thoth Tarot 6 of Pentacles rather than the Rider-Waite-Smith. I tend to read the Rider-Waite-Smith style. Maybe my Thoth people can correct me on that if that is not true, but that description of the 6 of Pentacles does not really resonate with the way that I see things, which again is the Rider-Waite-Smith way. So again, just to kind of finish us off, so now we've been through all the cards, I'll show you guys kind of how unwieldy it feels to shuffle. And again, you can kind of see like my fingers here are like really struggling. So if you are someone with smaller hands, this might not be like the right deck for you. You can see it's like really challenging for me to hold these. Like it's not very pleasant for my hand. And so that is a big reason why I did decide to sell this deck to a new home, which I'm really excited to deliver it to an artist in Toronto. Very exciting, because it's just too big for me, even though I do really love the artwork, as you guys saw. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I think it is a really stunning deck. I think the artwork is amazing. I think they did a fantastic job with the design of it. The booklet is really well designed. It's really thoughtful, really insightful. It has those 3 elements of a cute little poem, and then a description of what we see in the card, and then a meaning. So I do think it's quite a strong deck, but I am really happy to be rehoming it to someone who I think will really appreciate what it is. So I'm just putting this back together, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this walkthrough of this really lovely deck, the Light and Shadow Tarot. If you're just logging on now, sorry you guys missed the live, so just give that a rewatch as soon as I post it. This was for sale. I just sold it. I'll be doing some other live walkthroughs of some of the decks that I still have for sale in my tarot yard sale. So unfortunately, this one has just been sold. But I will be doing some more walkthroughs of decks that I have that I would like to rehome to loving new homes, people that are actually going to read with them and appreciate them more than I've got time to do, because I do have a small set of decks I work with all the time. And this is not one of them, but it's still really stunning. I do recommend this. The artwork is really beautiful, especially if you're into black and white decks or high contrast artwork or any kind of engraving, woodcut, lino cut, that type of thing. So I hope you guys like the walkthrough. Let me know in the chat which card was your favorite. And yeah, if there's any other decks you would like me to do a walkthrough of, please let me know. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. And are you going to pick this deck up? Are you going to add it to your collection? Let me know. And I'll talk to you guys on the flip side. Bye.